Why would anyone demand the removal of a child's memorial? The question hung heavy in the crisp autumn air of Willow Creek, a small town where everyone knew each other's names, joys, and sorrows. Karen Mitchell, known for her sharp tongue and unyielding sense of entitlement, stormed into the park that morning, her heavy footsteps crunching against the gravel path. Her face, flushed with indignation, was set in a scowl that could sour milk. She'd seen the wooden sign near the playground, a simple plaque, no bigger than a book, engraved with the name Eli Carter, Forever 7. To Karen, it was an eyesore, a blemish on her vision of a perfect park where she walked her yappy terrier, Muffin. She didn't care who Eli was. She didn't ask. All she knew was that the sign had to go. The park was quiet, save for the distant laughter of children and the rustle of leaves skittering across the ground. Karen marched straight to the park ranger's office, a small shed tucked behind a row of pines. Ranger Tom Ellis, a soft-spoken man with weathered hands and a heart too kind for confrontation, was sorting maintenance logs when Karen burst in. "That sign by the playground," she snapped, her voice slicing through the calm. "It's depressing. It's ruining the park's aesthetic. I demand you take it down." Tom blinked, caught off guard. He knew the sign. Everyone in Willow Creek did. It wasn't just a piece of wood, it was a tribute to Eli, the son of Staff Sergeant Michael Carter, who died in combat 3 years ago. Eli, born prematurely while his father was deployed, had fought his own battle against a rare heart condition but passed away at 7. The sign was the town's way of honoring both father and son, a quiet reminder of sacrifice and love. Tom tried to explain, his voice steady but gentle. "Mrs. Mitchell, that sign means a lot to this community. It's for Eli Carter, the son of." Karen cut him off, her hands planted on her hips. "I don't care who it's for. It's ugly, and it makes people uncomfortable. I pay taxes for this park, and I say it goes." Her words echoed, sharp and unyielding, drawing the attention of a few passers-by. Among them was Sarah Carter, Eli's mother, who'd been sitting on a nearby bench, lost in thought as she watched the playground where her son once played. Sarah's heart clenched at Karen's words. She stood, her legs trembling, and walked toward the shed, her grief reigniting like a smoldering ember. Sarah's presence shifted the air. She was a slight woman, her face etched with lines of loss, but her eyes burned with a quiet strength. "Karen," she said, her voice low but firm, "that sign is for my son. He loved this park. It's all I have left of him here." Karen turned, her expression barely softening. "I'm sorry for your loss, but this isn't about you. That sign is a downer. It doesn't belong in a place for families." Sarah's breath caught, the cruelty of the words slicing deeper than Karen could know. Tom stepped forward, trying to mediate, but Karen's voice rose, drowning him out. "I'll take this to the town council if I have to. I have rights." The confrontation drew a small crowd, dog walkers, parents, and a few curious teens. Whispers rippled through them, a mix of shock and disgust. Karen, oblivious to the growing tension, doubled down, her finger jabbing toward the sign. "It's an eyesore, and I won't stand for it." Sarah's hands clenched into fists, her grief warring with rage. She wanted to scream, to make Karen feel the weight of her loss, but she held back, knowing her words might fall on deaf ears. Instead, she turned to Tom. "Please," she whispered, "don't let her take it away." Tom nodded, his jaw tight. He'd seen Karen's tirades before, complaints about picnic tables, trash cans, even the color of the park's benches, but this was different. This was personal. Unbeknownst to Karen, her outburst was being recorded. A teenager in the crowd, Mia, had pulled out her phone, capturing every word. Mia, whose older brother had served with Michael Carter, felt a surge of protectiveness for Sarah. She uploaded the video to the town's community page on social media, titling it simply, "Karen versus Eli's Memory." Within minutes, the post began to spread, pinging notifications across Willow Creek. Comments poured in, each one angrier than the last. "How dare she? That's Eli's sign. Who does she think she is?" The town's collective heart, still tender from the loss of Michael and Eli, began to rally. Karen, unaware of the storm brewing online, stormed off, muttering about incompetent rangers and selfish people. She thought she'd won the argument. She had no idea what was coming. The video spread was the twist no one saw coming. By noon, it had reached every corner of Willow Creek and beyond, shared by veterans groups, local news pages, and even strangers moved by Sarah's quiet dignity. The comments grew fiercer, some calling for Karen to apologize, others demanding she leave town. A few veterans who'd known Michael started a petition to protect the sign, gathering hundreds of signatures in hours. Sarah, who avoided social media, was unaware of the growing support until her neighbor knocked on her door, tears in her eyes, and showed her the post. Sarah watched the video, her heart aching at the sight of Karen's callousness. But something else stirred in her, a flicker of hope. Maybe Eli's memory could be preserved. Maybe the town would stand with her. Karen, meanwhile, returned home smugly satisfied. She poured herself a glass of wine and scrolled through her phone, expecting to see her usual stream of dog photos and recipes. Instead, she was met with a flood of notification tags, messages, and comments, each one more scathing than the last. Heartless. Disgraceful. You should be ashamed. Her stomach dropped as she opened Mia's video and saw herself, red-faced and shouting, demanding the sign's removal. The comments stung, but the shares hundreds, then thousands terrified her. She tried to dismiss it as a misunderstanding, but the truth was sinking in. She'd crossed a line, and Willow Creek wasn't going to let it slide. The backlash hit Karen like a tidal wave. By evening, her phone buzzed incessantly with messages from neighbors, former friends, and even distant relatives who'd seen the video. Her inbox overflowed with emails, some pleading for her to reconsider, others laced with vitriol. One message, from a veteran who'd served with Michael, cut deep. You disrespected a hero's son. Fix this or you'll regret it. Karen's confidence crumbled, replaced by a gnawing dread. She tried to delete the video, but it was too late. Screenshots and reposts had spread it far beyond her reach. She locked her doors, turned off her porch light, and sat in the dark, the weight of her actions pressing down on her. At the park, the mood was different. The next morning, a small group gathered around Eli's sign. Sarah, Tom, Mia, and a handful of veterans who'd known Michael. They weren't there to gloat but to protect what mattered. Sarah touched the sign, her fingers tracing Eli's name, and whispered a thank you to the group. Mia, barely 17, spoke up. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she admitted. But I couldn't let her talk like that. Sarah hugged her, tears spilling over. The veterans, stoic but moved, began discussing plans to reinforce the sign's place in the park, maybe even add a bench in Eli's name. Their quiet resolve was a stark contrast to Karen's bluster, and it drew more townspeople to the cause. Karen, desperate to salvage her reputation, decided to fight back. She posted a lengthy statement on the community page, claiming she'd been misunderstood. I only wanted the park to look nice, she wrote. I didn't know about the boy. This is a witch hunt. But her words rang hollow. The town knew her complaints about noisy kids and messy picnics were legendary, and they weren't buying her excuses. The petition to protect Eli's sign had grown to over 1,000 signatures, and the town council, flooded with calls, scheduled an emergency meeting. Karen, realizing she couldn't ignore the uproar, decided to attend, determined to defend herself. She didn't know Sarah would be there too. The council meeting was held in the town hall, a modest brick building packed with residents. The air buzzed with tension as Karen walked in, her head held high despite the whispers and glares. Sarah sat near the front, her hands folded tightly in her lap, flanked by Tom and Mia. The council chair, a no-nonsense woman named Clara, called the meeting to order. Karen was given the floor first, and she launched into a rehearsed speech about property values and park aesthetics, carefully avoiding mention of Eli. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying her nerves. I'm not heartless, she insisted. I just want what's best for our town. The room stayed silent, the weight of her words falling flat. Then Sarah stood. She didn't raise her voice or point fingers. She simply told Eli's story, his love for the park swings, his laughter that echoed through the trees, his bravery through countless hospital visits. She spoke of Michael, who'd carried a photo of Eli on every deployment, and how the sign was a promise to keep their memory alive. The room was still, save for the sound of muffled sobs. Even Clara, known for her stoicism, wiped her eyes. Karen shifted uncomfortably, her face paling as Sarah's words stripped away her defenses. The twist came when Mia stood next, revealing she'd found an old letter from Michael to Eli, written during his last deployment. She read it aloud. "Buddy, you're my hero. Keep fighting. I'll be home soon." The room erupted in quiet gasps, the letter a gut punch that left no one untouched. Karen's resolve cracked. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. The council moved swiftly, voting unanimously to keep the sign and declaring it a protected memorial. Clara added, "We'll also be adding a bench for Eli, funded by community donations." Cheers filled the room, but Sarah remained quiet, her eyes on the floor. For her, it wasn't about victory, it was about her son. Karen slipped out of the hall, the weight of her humiliation sinking in. She'd come to fight, but she'd lost more than an argument. She'd lost the town's respect. Outside, the veterans and townspeople gathered around Sarah, offering hugs and words of support. Mia handed her the letter, now laminated to preserve it. "I thought you should have this," she said. Sarah clutched it to her chest, her tears falling freely. The sign would stay, but more than that, Eli's memory had united the town in a way Karen's demands never could. The video, still circulating, had sparked something bigger, a reminder of what mattered, of the fragility of life and the power of community. Karen, meanwhile, drove home in silence, her phone dark, her pride shattered. She'd underestimated Willow Creek, and now she faced the consequences. Karen's world unraveled in the days that followed. Her name became synonymous with cruelty in Willow Creek, whispered in grocery stores and coffee shops. Her dog-walking route, once a stage for her complaints, now felt like a gauntlet of judgmental stares. She stopped going to the park, unable to face the sign or the people who'd rallied around it. Her social media accounts went silent, but the internet wasn't done with her. The video had reached local news outlets, and a reporter contacted her for comment. Karen declined, her voice shaking as she hung up. She'd wanted control, but now she had none. The legal repercussions came next. The town council, after reviewing park regulations, cited Karen for harassment, as her aggressive demands had disrupted public peace and targeted a protected memorial. It wasn't a criminal charge, but the fine $500 and mandatory community service stung. Karen was ordered to help maintain the park for a month, including cleaning around Eli's sign. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. At her first session, under Tom's supervision, Karen worked in silence, her face a mask of resentment. A few townspeople watched from a distance, not to gloat but to ensure the sign remained untouched. Sarah, who'd avoided the park since the meeting, heard about Karen's punishment and felt no satisfaction. She only wanted peace, for herself and for Eli. Karen's community service was a turning point, though not in the way she'd hoped. Each day, as she swept leaves or emptied trash cans, she saw the sign Eli's name carved in simple, elegant letters. She began to notice small details. Flowers left by visitors, a child's drawing tucked beneath a stone, a veteran's pin placed carefully on the ground. These weren't just gestures. They were pieces of a community's heart. One morning, while cleaning alone, Karen found a photo of Eli taped to the Cigna, bright-eyed boy with a gap-toothed grin, swinging at the playground. Something broke in her. She sat on the grass, the photo in her hands, and cried for the first time in years. Not for herself, but for the boy she'd dismissed, the mother she'd hurt, and the town she'd alienated. Karen's transformation wasn't instant or dramatic. She didn't become a saint overnight, but she started small, writing a private apology to Sarah, delivered through Tom. "I was wrong," she wrote, her words clumsy but sincere. "I didn't understand what the sign meant. I'm sorry for your pain." Sarah read the letter, her heart torn between anger and forgiveness. She didn't respond, but she kept it, tucking it beside Michael's letter to Eli. Karen also donated anonymously to the fund for Eli's bench, a small gesture no one knew about but her. She began attending town events again, quietly, keeping her head down. Some forgave her, others didn't. Willow Creek wasn't a place for grudges, but memories ran deep. The park became a symbol of resilience. Eli's bench was unveiled on a sunny afternoon, with Sarah cutting the ribbon as the crowd applauded. The bench, carved with Eli's favorite quote from his father, "Keep fighting, buddy," became a place for reflection. Parents sat there with their children, veterans shared stories of Michael, and strangers left tokens of kindness. Sarah visited often, sometimes alone, sometimes with Mia, who'd become like a daughter to her. The sign and bench stood together, unyielding, a testament to love over hate. Karen watched from a distance during the unveiling, her presence unnoticed. She didn't expect forgiveness or redemption. She wasn't sure she deserved it, but she felt a shift inside her. She'd spent years demanding control, believing her voice mattered most. Now, she saw the power of listening, of understanding the stories behind the things she'd once dismissed. She'd lost her standing in Willow Creek, but she'd gained something else: humility. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, but it was real. For Sarah, the victory wasn't in Karen's downfall, but in Eli's legacy. The sign, the bench, the community's love, they were proof that her son's light still shone. She'd faced grief, cruelty, and confrontation, but she'd also found strength she didn't know she had. As she sat on Eli's bench one evening, watching the sunset paint the park in gold, she whispered, "We did it, buddy." The wind carried her words, and for a moment, she felt him there, swinging high, laughing. Willow Creek had fought for Eli, and in doing so, they'd reminded everyone what it meant to stand together. The sign wasn't just wood, it was a promise, etched in love, that no demand, no matter how loud, could ever erase.